Hello and welcome to the podcast. I think this is episode 73. I can't believe I've done so many. Um, I want to talk to you a bit about something the vets say that I have on my current program. This is my first group coaching program. I'm learning a ton from it. I can definitely say that there's just one way of learning, and that is by doing it, right? You don't know until you do it. So I'm finding out all the logistics and trying to get people together on the calls and how to create safety so everybody feel like they're getting something out of it and nobody feels like they don't feel safe. And and obviously, there's a lot of questions getting raised, which are giving me a lot of food for thought as well for my podcast, for my posting, and how I want to proceed. And I was coaching a vet who was worried about she's not been doing dentals for a while, and she then just said as if it was some sort of statement. Well, I'm just not I'm not experienced in them. I'm not experienced doing dentals, and if you look at that statement, I'm not experienced, what does that even mean? Which I then ask her, what do you mean by I'm not experienced? She said, well, I'm not as experienced as the other vets. I'm like, well, how many dentals would you have to do in order to be experienced? And she just randomly said, 100. And I was like, okay, so then how many have you done? And she thought like the last time she was working, because she's been off for some time and come back. And she said, well, I think I've 8 or 10. Okay, so in order for you to be experienced, then you need to do a 90, and then you will feel experienced, right? And we can question that, right? Like, why 100? Why would you choose 100? And why is that better than 80, for example? It's just such a vague statement, and we just throw these things out. And think they're facts. I'm just not that experienced, right? And when we say these things, it's really, really, really important that we define it. Experience. Why are you not experienced? I've only done exactly how many. Okay, and what is experience? Well, it's so many. And what does it mean then that you're not experienced? Well, I'm worried I'm gonna make more mistakes than a vet that is experienced. And like I said, well, when I first did my first bitch space, I think we probably took about 4 hours in vet school. And then the next time when I did it, I think it was 2.5 hours. And I don't think, as far as I know, these dogs are still alive and they're not gotten pregnant. So I don't think I made any mistakes. What is true is that I was very slow because, like you're doing the bit spay and you're like, is this an artery? Is this the fat? And you do 5 sutures because you want to be absolutely sure. So you are slower. But that doesn't mean that the lack of experience make you make more mistake. It just may mean that you are slower or that you're going to have to ask for help. So it's not necessarily detrimental for the animal, only in the sense that, okay, say anesthesia is a bit longer, which can be potentially more dangerous, but often the only thing that happens is they take a bit longer to wake up and they may be a bit cold, right? And you can all then argue with me what longer anesthesias mean for the animal, right? But we all have to go through that regardless. There's just no way of on day one to kick off doing any procedures, whether it's bits, dentals, orthopedics, like being fast and making no mistakes the first time. It's impossible, right? So whenever we say these things about ourselves that come up and we feel like I'm feeling inadequate, I'm not feeling confident in this. Okay, why not? Because I'm not experienced. I'm not experienced enough. You got to define the enough. You got to define I'm not what does it mean? Like how does it mean? Like where are you on the scale? If 10 is enough experience, how many is that in a number? And where are you on that scale? And it's the only reason it's the only way that you can then, as you go forward in your veterinary life or in anything else for that matter, that you can actually say, well, I was a 2 out of 10 because I'd done 8, now I've done 20. So let's say now I'm on a 3 out of 10. Like you go up and you can then measure it, right? Because otherwise your brain is just going to keep pushing this goal of experience ahead of you and you're always going to compare yourself to others. And now the other vet will have done 200 by the time you've done 100 and then you're still not experienced enough, right? And and that was the thing. No, the other thing was like I'm gonna make more mistakes because I don't have this experience. And what mistakes exactly do you think you make that this other vet doesn't make because she's got more experience, or is it just literally that you take a bit longer? And I noticed the pressure in the vets that I coach because a lot of you are vets that are a bit more experienced. You got a few years under your belt. Maybe, I mean, I've got about 20 years. And a lot of the vets I coach, I might surprise you, but they actually have many years of experience. I don't get many new vets because I think as new vets, you're expected to feel unexperienced. You're expected to not feel confident and be a bit stressed because everything is new and that's just how it is. But when we have all these years under our belt, then now I'm expected to, like, well, I was expecting to feel more confident, to feel experienced, to feel I have everything under control. And I don't feel like that. So something is wrong with me. And that's when then people come to coaching because they're like, this is not normal, right? Which is it, by the way. But something happens when we then change career or we change a path or we have to like develop a whole new set of skills because maybe before you were doing emergencies and now you're going into dermatology, whatever it is. Or for example, if I had to do dentals now, I would feel slow and I would feel like, oh, I've not done them for a while, right? And I feel like when we have more experience, but then we change path, there's so much pressure because, like, I have gray hair and some wrinkles. How are you not quicker at making and doing bit space? But if you've been doing emergencies or you've just been working at a cat clinic, then obviously you've not done bit space before, which means that you have this lack of skills now that you're inexperienced in this specific area. But because you experience in other areas, then suddenly you feel that this is wrong that you're unexperienced. So we have that our brain clashing with this concept. And when we then look at that I'm not experienced enough or I'm not good enough or I need to know about more about this. I had a discussion with then another vet in the group was pointing out, well, for dentals, there are all these things you can do. You can study, there's YouTube videos. And this other vet, she does study a lot, right? She does a lot of CPDs and she was saying like she really likes it and she feels curious. But I was also talking to her about, well, how much of this studying and doing courses and listening to podcasts is coming from I need to know more because we have that underlying thought of I don't know enough, which is again extremely vague, right? Because I don't know enough, like what in comparison to what and what is enough? Like what is this ever-ending goal we keep pushing ahead of us, which is knowing enough and being experienced enough. And if you don't set off with some sort of intention behind you're wanting to get more experience or you want to take more courses or you want to read more or you want to make less mistakes, you got to set out an intention because if you just set out, I need to know more, I need to do more, like the metaphor of this little boat in a big ocean just flopping around, never getting to a port because you don't actually set any direction, that comes in here strongly because you can be forever studying and always feeling you're behind and always feeling you need to do more and always feeling you need to practice more because you're not actually set some sort of goal or what is enough for you. And I'm thinking a lot about intention this week because I also coached the vet yesterday. We had a consult and she somehow ended up taking three different part-time jobs and she wasn't really happy with one of them. And I said, well, why did you take this job? Or why did you overwork yourself when you were locoming? There was a few issues going on. And she's like, oh, it was just because I can. And like I said to her, you don't seem to have set any kind of intentions of what you want to do with your veterinary life. And when you set an intention, I don't mean that you need to have a super clear goal or that you need to have your whole career path mapped out and know exactly what you want. But you can set some intention when you either take a new job or you decide to change path instead of just going, oh, because I can do it or because it's convenient or whatever it is, you just say yes to stuff and you sign up for stuff because in that moment it seems good. If you don't set an intention behind it, it's also you don't have any direction, and then suddenly you're unsatisfied and overwhelmed and unmotivated, and you feel scared because you're not confident enough, and you have all these different things going on. And one of the reasons is because you were lacking intent behind it. So when you're in a consult, for example, and you decide to say, well, we're going to do these tests and then we can do this treatment if the test show whatever, or if the test doesn't show anything, then the next thing would be this, right? You have a clear intention behind it. You don't start just throwing tests at the animal without knowing where you're going with it and what your decisions are going to be based on the test, right? You have an intention behind it and you need to communicate that intention to the owners in order for them to, give you cash so you can perform these tests and you can work on the animal. If you don't have any intention, you're just like, I mean, we could do a blood test. What kind? Why do you want to do a blood test? Well, we can, so I think just think we should, or let's just do a CT scan because I think we can, which some vets actually I do feel they do. Like they just do all these tests because they can, and there may be not much intention behind it with the animals 16 and a half years and 1 foot in the grave, but never mind that. Um, but notice how that lack of intention also ends up with not a very good result because we have an animal suffering and an owner paying out a lot of money without actually knowing what you're going to do with the results, right? So in general, in practice, we want to set an intention for the consult so we kind of know like where are we going with this and why am I taking this history and what I'm going to use it for. But I feel we do have a lot of areas in life where we don't set this intention, where we just kind of like, oh, well, I should really lose some weight. Well, what does that even mean? Like, why do you want to lose weight? And how much do you want to lose? What's your ideal weight? What do you think? What are like some three things you could do now to start losing weight? Or oh, I need more money. Like, oh, how much do you need? Like, look at your budget. Look at how much you need. Are you actually sitting in a housing that's too expensive for you, or could you actually afford something better? Do you want something better? You know, people that don't set intentions behind their health, or don't set intentions behind their financial health, like they just forever floating around and they never get to where they want to go. And this actually, I'm gonna completely go in a rabbit hole here, and I'm probably gonna lose half of you. But I was in a group, a vet group, and somebody was asking about the raw diet because he wanted to have counter arguments against this trainer, which is fair enough. But one of the comments from the other vets was, well, that's like, going vegan is really complicated. So raw diet, she was comparing it to vegan for humans. No, being vegan is really complicated, and you really have to do all these things, and there's a lot of pitfalls where you then lack nutrients, and then it's really expensive. And I'm like, okay, but all it is really setting an intention. Like most of us, we eat, right? We eat, we go by our day to day, and we don't have an intention behind what we're going to eat this week. And so many of us end up like unhealthy, overweight, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis. There's so many diseases that are lifestyle based. No, we drink alcohol, we maybe have like energy drinks, or we just a ton of coffee, whatever it is, and we don't set an intention behind it. And then we just kind of waiting for, whenever something happens, oh, now I'm sick and it's not really my fault. And now, like, I'll just let the doctors tell me what to do and then I'll do that. Like, we don't have an intention behind it. And I personally, as a like only plant based, and I really love having that intention behind what do I put in my mouth? Why do I put it in my mouth? What does it do in my body? And I love like investigating this. And it's not like you need to investigate all that in the beginning. And you can just have like an idea of what is good and not good. And then as you discover new things, then you add new things on. But for example, like being vegan is expensive. Like I'm like, no, like if you eat legumes and nuts and seeds, then it's not expensive. I have an expensive diet because I love like some of the fake meats, which are really expensive, but you don't need to eat that anyway. That was just a limp. But what I mean is like a lot of us, we don't set an intention behind what we do, and then we become victim of our circumstances. And instead of taking the reins and assuming responsibility for our veterinary life, our health, our finances, we just bubble along and do a bit of this and do a bit of that. Oh, I don't have enough money. I'm not experienced enough. I don't know what to, I'm not motivated, oh, I'm too fat, but I tried to drink water and I didn't have, like, there's no intention behind it. And then we feel just like again, a victim of our circumstances. And as a vet, specifically to come back to, I'm not experienced enough, we come back to feeling a victim of our brain that presents us with these thoughts. No, you're not experienced enough. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to take too long. And we don't question them now because there's no intent behind it. We could say, if there's an intent behind it, it's going to look like this. I have taken on this job, and one of the procedures I'm going to be doing is dentals. And okay, so I can feel this fear coming up. I feel uncomfortable around doing dentals. I want to avoid them. Why? And then you write your thoughts down. I'm not experienced enough. I'm going to take too long. I'm going to make mistakes. I haven't done them in ages. Okay, fine. Define what is experienced enough? For me, it's 100 dentals. Okay, how long is it going to take me to get to 100 dentals so I can feel experienced enough? And then when you set that intention, you're like, okay, so I work so many days a week. If you have an average of so many dentals, it's going to take me 6 months. Okay, so for 6 months, I'm going to be a bit uncomfortable, knowing I'm going to take longer, knowing that I may make mistakes, which is why I should take longer to not make them. And then in 6 months, I'll feel experienced. And until then, the nurses are just going to have to put up with me being a bit longer and having a bit longer anesthesia, and we're just going to have to keep an eye on the heat and maybe put some on fluids that we normally wouldn't put on fluids. That's it. But you don't have this vague fear that is overwhelming you, and you just feel victim of the circumstance because I've taken this job where there were dentals, no? So I really want to encourage you, and that is literally the reason behind everything I do as a coach is like find your intention. No, take responsibility. Take the reins of your situation in your life, your finances, your health as a vet, and say, where am I? Why am I not feeling great right now? What's in the way of me feeling great? Where do I think would be a good place to be? How much do I want to weigh, for example, if your health? Or how would I be experienced enough for me to feel confident? How am I going to get there? And then you start moving. And then maybe you find out that, say if it's your health and you want to go vegan, and you find out like you actually don't tolerate nuts very much, and that was going to be a big part of your diet. Okay, so then we switch, then we have something else. But you need to start moving towards where you want to go, and you need to have that intention behind it. Like you need to have your boat sat in a direction, and you need to go, this is where I want to go, and these are the ports I'm going to go through in order to get to my destination. And then you go, and then you might change things. And if you said to yourself, well, I have to do 100 dentals before I'm experienced enough, you know what, when you get to 50, you're probably all right. You're probably going to feel confident enough, right? So maybe you are just an incredibly anxious person, and when you've done 100, they were all so different that in your head you think I'm not experienced enough yet. Then you set a new goal, but at least you have some sort of structure, some sort of framework to put this up on. And the same when you study, right? If you say I need to study all these things, no, like I want to dedicate so many hours a week to studying because I think that is reasonable with my life and with my work, and I'm happy to put so much work in on the side to make sure I'm as up to date as possible with my life. No, instead of saying I needed to know everything about dentals, I need to know everything about emergencies, I need to know all the latest about feline diseases. Like just having it say how much do I want to invest of my time in my veterinary life, and how much do I want to invest in my family life, how much do I want to invest in my health, like say gym, yoga, walks, whatever, how much do I want, like have an intention behind how you set your life up, and then everything will fall into place because you have an intention. So if I want to dedicate 40 hours a week of my life to the veterinary life, my work is maybe 35 hours. Okay, so 5 hours a week I could potentially dedicate to any kind of CPD. So say studying a course or doing a podcast. Or you could concentrate, right? You could say, June is gonna be the month I do this super intensive course, and I'm gonna put all these hours in, and that will give me so many hours a year. But like do it with intention. Don't just like jump into the next thing because like this next shiny thing without knowing why you're doing it and what is your goal. Like have intention. And when your brain comes up with these random thoughts about not being enough, not experienced enough, and all that, like define it. Don't let your brain make you think that these are facts. These are just thoughts. And you want to get your facts right. You want to have a factual line. If you come back to the model, you want to say, the fact is I've done 8 dentals. My thought is I'm not experienced enough. I then feel inadequate, anxious, and my action then is avoiding dentals, really fearing them. And the result is I never get more experience because I'm avoiding them. You need to know how the model is running in your life, and you need to take control of that, and you need to start knowing what your brain is telling you, and you take control of it. You take the reins of every area of your life and just start doing it bit by bit. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. And you don't have to lack anything anywhere as long as you have intention behind it. I feel this was a bit of a rant, but I really wanted to say that because it's something I see so much in people I coach, and I don't want you to be that. I want you to have an intention. I want to have an intentional life that you can look back on next year and the year after and be proud and happy with what you're doing, and you can course correct because you know exactly where you are, and you know exactly where you want to be, and you know exactly the steps you're taking. So again, let me advocate for coaching. Coaching is definitely the number one thing that will help you with this, because all the vets I coached, like none of them were seeing what they were doing to themselves. And journaling, again, I always say journaling is amazing, and you can catch a lot of things journaling, but coaching is the fast track to getting to where you want, to finding out what is holding you back, where are you being stuck? Where are you like getting stuck in yourself in your own head? And how can we get out? What are the thoughts that are stopping you? What are the models you're running in your life that are just like keeping you in this loop? What intention do you want to have? Let's explore that. Let's look at what you want to do with your life. And then let's look at how we're going to get there. And then coming back every week or every other week. And we just look at, okay, so where are you now? Okay, this happened and it stopped me. Okay, why did it stop you? What happened? And you like pull it apart, and you're just gonna move so fast to compare to trying to do it by yourself. I am still available for one-on-one coaching, even though I'm already starting to, run brew programs. I work with some corporates as well, but I love my one-on-one coaching because I love just taking you and do the whole package with you and look at what exactly are your patterns, where exactly are you feeling stuck, what is it that trips you up, and why are you not fulfilled, and where you're not being intentional. And then we just work on it so hard for 3 to 4 months, and your life just changes. And I love being a part of that. I don't actually do anything. I'm just sitting here like, oh, have you seen how you do this? Oh, did you notice how you did that? Oh, why are you thinking that? I just ask these questions. I'm not telling you what to do, but I help you like get out of your own brain and see what you're doing, becoming unstuck, and just feel so much better. And just feel like once you start doing these things as well, it just starts unraveling, and you apply to every area of your life. So now suddenly, you know, we're just maybe looking at your veterinary life, and now you start applying it suddenly to your health. You start maybe losing weight, and then suddenly your relationship starts getting better because now you're not like paranoid about what your partner does and don't do, because you feel much more grounded in yourself. And then your finances start falling into hack because now you're not buffering, spending money on stupid things, or not even knowing where your money is going because you were afraid of facing it. I cannot advocate enough for coaching. I would love to coach you. I specialize in coaching veterinarians. I also coach other people. I coach entrepreneurs just because I think it's so much fun. And if you want to try coaching with me, I have a free first consultation, which is a bit like the equivalent of a free first puppy visit. So we can see, where you are, where you're being unstuck. I basically take your history. We look at your quote unquote symptoms, which are, the situation you're in and the thoughts you're having and what you're going through. And then I make kind of a prescription. I say, okay, this is what I see. This is where you're being stuck. This is what you need to do. This is what I would advise. And then I give you like a framework you can use. And then you can decide, God, I really love that. I had never thought about that. I want more coaching from Gunilla. And then you sign up with me. And if not, then you take your prescription and you try it on your own. I would obviously advise you to work with me because it's just going to go so much faster. And also, we have so much fun. Like me and my clients, we always have so many laughs. Snorting tea out of your nose is just that's just a thing, because I will come up with a metaphor. My crazy brain will just see something and be like, oh, that is just like, and come up with a metaphor that is really funny. Just like my coach is really funny as well. He does that. He always talks about poop. He can always find somehow a metaphor related with poop to what I'm doing to myself. So I encourage you to do that. And if you love that, then sign up for this free puppy visit, this first free consult via the link in the show notes. And I'd love to see you. Some weeks I'm not available because I'm working nights, and I tend not to do consult those nights because I'm tired and I'm just like, leave me alone. But most weeks I have availability. So sign up and get to know me, and let's see what's going on for you and try out coaching. That was it for today. Remember, intention behind everything you do, one step at a time. Love you. Have a great week. Bye.